This is grade 7 science. So before starting today's lesson, please subscribe our channel to get notified. Today our lesson is biological processes. When we are building a house, we use a brick as the building unit. So in the same manner, there are building units for organisms too. Organisms are made up of cells as the building unit. Some organisms are made up of one cell. We call those organisms as unicellular organisms. Some are made up of a lot of cells. We call them multicellular organisms. So when we are building a house, we use a brick as the building unit of the house. In the same way, there are building units for organisms too. So a cell is the building unit of living organisms, and some organisms are made up of one cell. So we call those organisms made up of one cell as unicellular organisms, and the ones who are made up of a lot of cells as multicellular organisms. So in this figure, you can see unicellular organisms. So usually unicellular organisms are the microorganisms or microbes. For an example, amoeba, paramecium, and euglena. And multicellular organisms are the organisms which are made up of multiple number of cells. For example, insects, human body, and plant bodies. So these are unicellular organisms. So the meaning of the word unicellular is one cell. So these are one-celled organisms. And the meaning of the word multicellular is a lot of cells, multiple cells. So we call them the organisms with multicellular organisms as multiple number of organisms as multicellular organisms. So now we're going to learn about the organizational levels of our body. So these are the organizational levels of our body. The first one is cell. The second one is tissue. The third one is organs. The fourth one is systems, and all these cells, tissues, organs, and systems create an organism. First, you're going to learn what a cell is. Cells. It is the basic structural and functional unit of life. So cells are the basic structural and functional units of life. For an example, blood cells. Next, we will learn about tissues. So from this part, you're going to learn about organizational levels of our body, and we learned about cells, which are the basic structural and functional units of life. So now we're going to learn about tissues. The cells get together and form a tissue. A tissue does a specific function, contains same shaped or different shaped cells. So tissues are made up of cells. So the cells get together and form a tissue. A tissue is a specific function. So a tissue does a specific function. That means a certain function, and tissues contain the same shaped cells or different shaped cells. For an example, blood tissues and cardiac muscular tissue. The tissue which transports water and mineral is called the xylem tissue in plants. So the tissue which transports water and mineral is called xylem tissue in plants. Xylem, so we spell this word as xylem, and it is the xylem tissue which transports water and minerals throughout the plant body. Phloem tissue is the tissue which transports water, which transports food in the plant body. So the tissue which transports food in the plant body is phloem tissue. In this figure, you can see there are 4 types of tissues. For an example, connective tissue, epithelial tissue, muscle tissue, and nervous tissue. So these are the tissues in plants and animal bodies. So in the first figure, you can see 4 types of tissues that are connecting tissues: muscle tissue, nervous tissue, epithelial tissue. So those are animal tissues, while the second figure, you can see the tissues of plants. The tissue which transports water is the xylem tissue. The tissue which transports food is the phloem tissue. Now we're going to learn about organs. Organs, a collection of tissues work together to perform a specific function or functions, is called an organ. So an organ is the collection of tissues which work together to perform a specific function or functions. For example, stomach is an organ, liver is an organ. So a number of tissues get collected and perform the function of storing the food and digesting digesting them further in the stomach, and in the liver they break down the oil and also remove poison from blood. So tissues collect together and perform specific functions. Next, we're going to learn about systems. A group of organs that perform a specific function or functions is known as a system. So a system is a group of organs that perform a specific function or functions. The systems consist of many organs. So for an example, digestive system, respiratory system, circulatory system, shoot system, and root system of plant bodies. So we already know that plants and animals, including insects, are multicellular organisms. So these multicellular organisms have cells, tissues, organs, systems. So even plants have systems and organs. Now we're going to learn about the organs and systems in plants. So here you can see an image of organs and systems in plants. So I will tell the organs in the plants: fruits, flowers, leaves, stems. So those are the organs in plants. We already learned about these organs in from Unit 1, Plant Diversity. So these leaves, systems, fruits, flowers, taproots, and lateral roots all belong to, they all are organs. So these organs, leaves, stems, fruits, and flowers belong to the shoot system of plant, and the roots, taproot, and lateral roots belong to the root system of plants. So now we learned about cells, tissues, organs, and systems. So these organ systems or systems work together and build the organism. So cells are this basic structural and functional unit of life. And for an example, there are blood cells and tissues, a collection of cells which perform a specific function or functions. Organs are a collection of tissues which perform a specific function or functions, and also the organs contain a large number of tissues, and a system is made up of organs. Next, we are going to learn about some systems in our body. So the first system in our body that we are going to learn is digestive system. So this is a figure of the digestive system. So the digestive system, when we talk about the digestive system starts from our mouth. We call that the mouth cavity. So when we eat food, the food gets digested from our teeth, and that we call it as mechanical digestion. So in the saliva, there are some chemicals. So those chemicals are mixed with the food that are digested by our teeth, and the saliva further digests the food. That we call it as chemical digestion. So after mechanical and chemical digestion from food, from the mouth cavity, it goes to the pharynx. So the pharynx is the common cavity or the common opening for the digestive tract and also larynx. So we can see this pharynx in both the digestive system and respiratory system. So it is common to both digestive system and respiratory system. So after the food gets digested by the mouth, it goes to the pharynx, and the pharynx pushes the food in the mouth to the esophagus. We call this esophagus. So this long tube-like thing, we call it as esophagus, and esophagus is also known as the food pipe. So the food goes through the esophagus, and the esophagus pushes the food to the stomach. So what is the function of the stomach? What the stomach does is it stores the food for about approximately 3 or 4 hours, and then some digestive juices in the stomach digests the food we eat further. And then the food in the stomach goes from this part to the small intestine, and the small intestine digests the food which were given to it by the stomach further and absorbs the nutrition of the food. And then after absorbing nutrition, it gives the food, the remaining food which it cannot absorb the nutrition, to the large intestine, and the large intestine absorbs the water in those food, and they are released, the semi-solid food are released from the anus. So these are the organs which belong to the digestive system: the mouth cavity, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and rectum plus anus. So those were the organs which belong to the digestive system. So next we're going to learn about the mechanical and chemical digestion. So usually we eat big or complex parts of food. We eat complex food or big pieces of food. So these big pieces of food are converted into small food particles by our mouth. So we call it as mechanical digestion by teeth. And these small food particles are again digested further into simple food particles. So this we call it as chemical digestion by digestive juices. So conversion of small food particles into simple food particles, we call it as chemical digestion. And after they are converted into simple food particles, they are absorbed by the small intestine. So there are two main functions of the digestive system. One is conversion of complex food into simple substances and absorption of simple food to the body. So we learned about the breaking down of food in the digestive system. So it starts from the mechanical digestion by teeth, and then chemical digestion by digestive juices. There are two main functions of the digestive system, as we learned: conversion of complex food into simple substances and absorption of simple food to the body. Now we're going to learn about the digestive tract. So I showed you a picture of the digestive system and I showed you the organs which belong to the digestive system. Now we are going to learn, or we're going to observe the path where the food goes. So as you can see, I have marked it in red color. The food starts from the mouth cavity where it gets digested by mechanical digestion by teeth and also chemical digestion by mixing with saliva, and then the pharynx pushes the food in from the mouth into the esophagus, and esophagus pushes the food to the stomach, and the stomach stores the food for about approximately 4 hours and then sends the food, and before it sends the food or pushes the food to the small intestine, it digests the food further by digestive juices, and then the small intestine absorbs the nutrients of those food particles by digesting it further, and also it pushes the food to the large intestine so that the water can get absorbed, and then the food goes out, or the sensory food goes out by the anus. Now we're going to learn about the functions of organs which belong to the digestive system. Mouth cavity function: breakdown of food particles into small pieces by teeth. We call it as mechanical digestion. Secretion of saliva by salivary glands to aid digestion of food, chemical digestion. Pharynx: it's the common cavity of the digestive tract, and the larynx pushes the food in the mouth to the esophagus. So I told you this before. Pharynx is the common organ to the digestive system and also the respiratory system. And the pharynx pushes the food in the mouth to the esophagus. Esophagus, so we call the esophagus also food pipe. It pushes the food in the mouth cavity to the stomach. Stomach, it is a muscular sac. Digestion is efficient due to acidic nature of digestive juices. Food is stored in the stomach for about 3 hours. Food is digested further by mixing digestive juices in the stomach. Small intestine. It is about 6 meters long. and it is a folded tube. Different types of food digest with digestive juices in the small intestine. Digestion is completed and absorbed, and the food is absorbed to the body. There are finger-like projections called the villi in the small intestine to increase the surface for efficient digestion. So to explain that, if we take a look at a tube which is narrow, you can see it like this. The end of this like this. But in our small intestine, it's not circularly like this, it's just like this. We can observe it just like this. So it is just like that so that it would be easier to absorb the nutrition to the body. Large intestine, it is shorter than the small intestine, but it is considerably broad. Absorption of water is done from the large intestine, anus. It is the terminal end in the digestive system. Semi-solid feces is released through anus. So the semi-solid feces are released through the anus. So let us watch a small video clip to get a clear idea about the digestive system.
Oops, excuse me. Oh, hello friends. Have you ever wondered where does the food go once it enters your body? Sorry. Well, worry no more, cause I'll tell you all about the human digestive system. Oops. Come on, what are you waiting for? Zoom in. Digestion is a simple process where large insoluble food particles are broken down into smaller water-soluble molecules so that they can be absorbed by blood and give energy to different parts of our body. The process of digestion has a few stages, and I'll take you through all of them. Come! Chewing is the first stage of the digestive system. When you chew your food, the food particles break down into little pieces that are easier to swallow. The saliva, which contains a lot of enzymes, mixes with those food particles and helps break down those food particles even more. Once you have completely chewed your food, the tongue helps to push the food particles down your throat. This process is called swallowing. The food travels through a long pipe called esophagus, also known as the food pipe. When the food particles have traveled through the food pipe, their next destination is the stomach, where those particles hang out for approximately 4 hours. The stomach releases a lot of acids and enzymes, which further break down the food particles, so that these particles can be absorbed by your body. An enzyme called pepsin, present in the stomach, helps break down the proteins. Oh, and a lot of bacteria are killed by our superhero, the stomach, so that we don't fall sick. Destination next, the small intestine. Once the food particles reach the small intestine, a lot of juices from the liver and pancreas help break down those particles. The liver secretes bile, which helps break down fats. And the pancreas releases other enzymes to help digest all kinds of food particles. Now that the food particles are broken down, the small intestine absorbs them and transfers them to our body through blood. The particles that are not absorbed by the small intestine reach the large intestine. Now the large intestine absorbs water and other particles and sends the waste material out of your body. Trivia time! Did you know that our large intestine produces antibodies that help us boost our immunity? When your face becomes red due to blushing, the lining of your stomach becomes red too. So eat healthy, digest healthy, and live healthy. Tune in next time for more fun facts. This is me zooming out.
Okay, so in that video you saw how the food gets digested, and I hope you got a clear I hope you understood about the digestive system. So we're going to learn about the next system. So the next type of system that we're going to learn today is the respiratory system. The process where energy is produced by reacting or burning of simple foods with oxygen is called respiration. The intake of air needed for respiration is called inspiration, and the element of water vapor and the elimination of water vapor and carbon dioxide, which are produced during the production of energy as byproducts, is called expiration. So in grade 6, we learned about the respiration, the process of respiration. So we defined it as the process where energy is produced. So in grade 7, we are going to learn about the respiratory system, and there is somewhat complicated definition for the process of respiration. So that is the process where energy gets produced by reacting or burning of simple foods with oxygen is called respiration. So when we take air needed for respiration, or when we breathe air in, we call it as inspiration. And when we exhale carbon dioxide, water vapor, and other gases out except oxygen, we call it as expiration. Now we are going to learn about the production of energy. This is the process of production of energy. So by inhaling, by inhaling we get oxygen, and so when simple food plus oxygen react, it produces energy. So actually simple food means the glucose which we absorb by the simple food plus oxygen reacts and it produces energy which are necessary for biological processes. And when producing energy, they produce carbon dioxide and water vapor as byproducts, and these byproducts are exhaled. So this is the process of the production of energy. So now this is an image of the respiratory system. The respiratory system starts from the nasal cavity. So the nasal cavity, from the nasal cavity, we breathe air in and exhales carbon dioxide and water vapor out. So this is nasal cavity, this is pharynx. So we met pharynx in the digestive system too. And I said before that pharynx belong to both the respiratory system and the digestive system. So this is the larynx. So this is pharynx and this is larynx. This over here is the trachea. The trachea is divided into two parts. We call those two parts as the bronchi. So one is the left bronchi, and the other is right bronchi. So we actually call them as left bronchus and the right bronchus. So the plural form of bronchus is bronchi. So this trachea is like a wide tube which divides into two parts as left bronchus and right bronchus. So this is the right lung and this is the left lung. So in the right lung, it contains three lobes: the right interior, the right the right superior, the right mid, and there's another one. So the right lung is made up of three lobes, while the left lung is made up of two lobes. So I have a question. So if the right lung consists of three lobes, why doesn't this left lung contain three lobes? That is because there must be some space for the heart. So there must be some space for the heart. So the left lung is small because the heart is located somewhat to the left. These branch-like things are bronchiole, and if we zoom in this image, we can see like leaves-like thing, which are similar to a circulatory or circular object. We call them as alveoli. So these branches are called as bronchiole. This is the diaphragm. So when we breathe air in, the lungs get filled with air and they increase their amount. So when they increase their amount, this diaphragm goes down. And when we exhale air, their lungs become small because there is no air inside the lungs, so the diaphragm become big. Now let us watch another video clip on respiratory system.
Next time for more fun facts. This is me zooming out.
Okay, so from this lesson, we learned a lot about biological processes. We learned about the organization levels in living body and about two systems, digestive system and respiratory system. So that's all in this lesson. Hope you understood the lesson well. So there were some points in the digestive system and the respiratory system that you should remember. So thank you for watching the video and please subscribe our channel to get notified.